Heavenly Father, thank you for another day of life. Give us the blessings. Take care of our families. Let us make the proper decisions. Anything we are, based to make. Take care of those in need, Father, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Cantu, can you lead us? Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding timeline and election dates for future charter amendments. Chief?
Yes, so we're gonna have,
We're going to have Ms. Chris Palacios from the law firm. Please state the name of your law firm.
The law firm is Palacios, Garza, and Thompson. Good afternoon, commission members and the mayor's not here, right? Thank you for allowing me to make this presentation. This is regarding the proposed timeline and election dates for any future amendments that you all would like to have. I know I see a lot of new faces, so what I wanted to start off with is giving you a background of what last happened. There was, in 2013, November 2013, there was an election for the city of San Juan for a charter amendment. And at that time, there was 8 amendments that were passed. Prior to the passing of those, there was work sessions done, just to discuss with the commission to see what direction they wanted to go to, what amendments they wanted to make, and things like that before it even went for election to the people for voting. So at that time, the commission selected, we had about 12 amendments, and then there was like 2 other subjects that were still kind of pending, but they didn't want to bombard the citizens with a lot of amendments, so they selected about 8, and so that's what they took to the voters. They just kind of prioritized what they wanted at that time, and they selected 8, and there was a consensus of those 8, and so they took those to the voter. And then they all passed at that time. There's maybe about 6 that still, proposed amendments that still stayed. They're having to do with different things like the absences of a commission, the city manager's hiring and removal power, the waiver of the 3 readings when you do the ordinances so that you don't have to be coming back and bringing them at the same time. And then also with regarding the initiative, referendum, and recall procedures. Those are basically some of them that were still left. And of course, if you have anything else that you would like to amend, you can also do that at the time. What I'm here today for is just to kind of talk to you about when this can be done. I know there was mention that they were trying to see if maybe they wanted to get it in for the November election. That's going to be, that's really difficult, right? It's really impossible to do because there is a deadline for Monday to have your order of election, and that order actually has to have the actual amendments that you're going to be proposing to the public. So,
Are you talking about this Monday?
this Monday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying it's nearly impossible because, it's almost like you're going to rush it. And then the other thing is that the law provides that a city cannot provide for do an amendment election to their charter. They can't do it more than every 2 years. So like if you do an election and it's only on one item, like you're going to have to wait another 2 years before you can make another charter amendment. So so the next earliest date would, the law allows for you to choose between the next uniform election date, the next municipal election date, or also the next presidential election date. So you have all those choices. At the earliest, it would be your next uniform date election, which would be the May 2016. So basically, the motion here, if any, if you want to proceed with that date or proceed with another date, is just to start like the workshop. If you want to go ahead and start for me to prepare with either getting with the city manager to prepare a timeline, get some work session dates of when you all are available so that this can be discussed and see what you all want or don't want, or, and then that's basically it, what I'm here for now. So if the commission would like to take action at that time, that's what the action would be for. Is there any questions, or?
I do have a question. Being that these specific amendments were placed on here, if time serves me correctly, none of the 4 commissioners were here when those were brought to fruition. And so, let's just say, as an example, we want to bring this in May. From now until May, can we convene and talk about things that maybe we don't want in there or that we want in there?
Oh, definitely, yeah,
Okay.
because
So
the appro.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
It
ahead.
doesn't necessarily have to be these specific amendments that we take
No,
at that time?
no, it's up to the commission. I mean,
Okay, great.
what are you proposing? Yes.
Okay, because it was, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, no, because at that time, 2 years ago, it was only approved to go forward with the 8 that we went with. That's it. The rest was left on hold.
okay.
So
Thank
there
you.
was discussion, so as far as like work on any of those items, we kind of have more or less the work, so there's not going to be, if anything, if there's things at the time that if we do go forward with the work sessions and things like that, if there's things that you all want us to look into or you want change or whatever, that's the additional work that's going to happen. But so far, there was a presentation, even after the election, the last election, there was a presentation that I did just to inform the commission exactly what was passed. And so at that time, we also left, we also let them know what was left, and then, to give, at that time, you couldn't go have another election because you had to wait the 2 years, so that's the reason. Any other questions?
Ms. Palacios?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question on, now, right now, they indicated, or you indicated the next time would be May of 2016, have the charter amendment election?
Correct.
Okay, now, that's the earliest. That's the earliest.
That's the earliest, yes.
So if that's the earliest, when would be the time to submit the order? You indicated that the time to submit the order for the election would be this Monday for this coming November.
Right.
So what would be the time to submit the order for the May election?
The law provides that you do the order 62 days prior to the actual election date.
Okay.
62 days, that's what it provides for.
So they would actually need to meet the 62 days before then to actually get an idea of what they would want
Yes,
to amend?
yes. Mhm.
Okay. So, way before that.
How are you doing, Mayor?
Well,
Good to see you.
sorry for being late.
That's
I just
okay.
wanted, I know you've already spoken to, and you're already talking about the date. So
Mhm.
it's not possible to have anything done for this Monday's.
For this Monday, it really isn't, because you have to have your order already, like, set, like, what are they gonna,
Actual wording, or can we say it's going to be an amendment to the charter
the
regarding?
actual wording. You
The
have to have the
actual
actual wording for Monday. You have to have your actual order. Mhm. It's got to say, what are the measures they're going to vote on? That's what the law says. Mhm. Mhm. But the next earliest, like I said, the law provides that the next, you can either have it on your next uniform date that's allowed under the election code, or your next municipal election, or the next presidential election. So of those choices, your earliest date is going to be the next uniform date, which would be in May 2016.
Wouldn't it be cost-effective if we were to decide and go with the November date? Since it's a presidential election, am I right or wrong?
You might, because, I mean, the cities normally, like, I don't know who's having their election, but normally they kind of join together with other governmental entities and they have an election. So if you do one and there's not another election going on with the county or whoever, then the city would probably have to incur. I don't know how much that is, or, that would probably be something else that maybe your city secretary or finance department could let you know.
And And then what I'd like for you to be able to do with us is go ahead and begin the process even now,
Okay,
so that we can visit on those issues that we have already visited.
mm-hmm,
And maybe take an opportunity to speak with the new members of the commission on the charter itself.
yes,
And that we could, maybe some things that we did not catch at the time, or we didn't feel we could address yet because of the length of the ones that we were considering. So maybe
Yes.
working with us as soon as this budget season's over, we're into the new budget
Mm-hmm.
season, that you can maybe take some time with us to sit individually
yes, definitely,
and
definitely.
then get that prepared. So by the time we come around May,
Mm-hmm,
we'd be ready.
okay,
I would appreciate that.
mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions, council? No? Thank you. Appreciate it, Chris.
The only question I have, Mayor, Ms. Palacios, did you want a motion or of any kind? Did that?
Just to allow me to proceed with either scheduling preparing a timeline, and for what date you want me to prepare that timeline, and then preparing the timeline and proceeding with the scheduling of the work sessions.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
All right, is there a motion to that effect? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, absolutely. Moving on to item 5, discussion and possible action on the interim city manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 2015-2016. Chief Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Before you, you have a handbook titled Budget, City Manager Recommended Budget, August 20th, 2015. This is a working budget that we prepared for you all from staff, finance, and by meetings and discussion with our directors. There is a budget highlight letter in front of you that we also, standard letter that we use every year to hand out.
It's on page 1.
I think Mayor has it.
Different than the one you handed out to us, or no?
Yeah, here you go, Mayor. So, the standard, top part already, just a standard that we mention every year and so forth. Is-
I'm looking at last year's.
So on that letter, the budget highlights, I wanted to mention on the budget highlights, obviously, we talked about the Monday's meeting, the no tax increase. You want to cover that real quick on that line item? On the we already addressed it on Monday. We're going to take it item by item so we can.
On the highlights?
No, just talk about, so also staff can be aware of it.
Okay, and on Mayor Commission, good afternoon, good evening. My recommendation and the Commission and Mayor recommendation was to keep the same tax rate as last year, which is 0.6993. And basically, that's where we're actually basing our revenues on, right? If you notice on page 1, on the general fund, our property taxes are estimated to be 5,019,000, right? Compared to last year, which is 5,136,000.
Continuing with the budget highlights there, on the next bullet you see there, there'll be no salary adjustments, but I do have one of the directors has a concern, and I'm gonna allow him to speak on that, Mayor, with your permission.
Sure.
When we get to the IT department. But also, there are no promotions or reclassification, but we did add an increase in accrued leave for sick leave and annual leave for the employees, meaning that right now, they get 4 hours of annual leave and sick leave per month. So we increased it to 4 hours, additional 4 hours per month. So eventually, at the end of the year, they get an additional week of annual leave and so forth. So we wanted,
Or it's 8.
what was
It's gonna
that?
be 8,
Instead of 4, it's 8.
8 and 8?
Yes,
correct.
it's, right now it's 4 and 4, so now it's gonna be 8 and 8. So we added that on that as well. Something that we wanted to give them as an incentive, and also, it's something that we could do. We could do it, no budget impact right now to this budget. We also increasing funding on the community development for one lighting for new subdivisions. And I think that Mr. Cervantes, we're working on the subdivision that we're gonna be using that for as well. But also, we also transferred the animal control from the fire department to planning department. So that's something that we added there as well.
Did we take into consideration the 13,000 that's going to be due from us for TechStot?
Yeah, it's in there. 13,000 for the lighting project along the expressway.
On the next bullet there, increase on funding on the finance for asset depreciation software. That's on Mr. Garza.
This is, we want to implement a new, let's say, way to manage our fixed asset, and Encode, which is our actual accounting software, has that module. So we wanted to implement it, I mean, so we can actually have a better control over everything that we have.
The next bullet you see on the back of the page, that's something that we wanted to make sure that we address it. That's a municipal swimming pool project that we've been discussing and so forth. Obviously, some of the cost savings, Mayor, Commissioners, for this year came from that line item, and also some salaries at some positions that we had open. I think you want to cover those numbers there, Mr. Garza. On the cost savings, so you all have an idea what were some of the cost savings for this budget, current budget. Yeah.
Basically, in our personnel, all the vacant positions that we had during the year, we had savings of 385,000. Plus all the line items that were included on the swimming pool, which that's an additional 37,000. In total, we have 422,000 of cost savings last year.
So you're saying that all the salary from the, from every single department, not just the swimming pool, right?
Not just the swimming pool.
That includes the city manager, utilities, and so forth,
Correct.
all the additional openings that we have. Yeah. So also, later on in the budget also, when we talk about some of the salaries there that you're gonna see, some of the salaries projected in the actual document are current salaries that were received by current employees at that salary, at that salary at the time they left. So it's not the original, for new employees. Ms. Cordero, you want to address that real quick, and I won't talk about on the salary that it's on the budget, or you can cover that?
Basically, what we did is we based our estimation on the salary, especially on the positions that were vacant, based on the position that was hired last time, right? It may change accordingly to whenever the position is going to be filled, either this year or the next one. So we may end up adjusting the budget down or up. It all depends on how much are we going to be paying the position for.
Like yes. The next is just some additional capital for resources, file cabinet. On the IT department, we increased it. Mr. Baca, you want to address those increases there in your department?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. On the first one, it's a switch that we budgeted for last year to change. This switch is at the Public Works Department, and it's a very old switch we've been having problems with for the past 2 or 3 years. We've been rolling out new switches, so we did last year and the year before. This is actually the last switch. The rack access point, actually, it's 15. It's reflected wrong here. It's 15,000. This one is for the Wi-Fi that we provide in the parks. This is something that's really not necessary if you guys feel that you want to use the money somewhere else. The Dell servers, part of the money is here. The rest of the money, the actual amount is 12,000. The rest of the money goes to the utilities fund. They're paying part of it. Those are additions to our servers that we have. We replaced 2 our old servers. We had 2 old servers that were around 8 years old. We replaced those 2 years ago with 2 new ones. So now we're only left with 2 those two servers that are already 2 years old. One of them is at the PD and the other one is at City Hall. So at each location, we only have one single server. That's one point of failure. If that server basically fails, the whole city will stop functioning, from internet to email to telephone lines to everything. So these are kind of backups to the servers that we currently have. The iBus web filter, this is the filter that we had previously, bought 2 years ago, but this year the one that we had went out of support. So we had to move to the other version, to the newer version that they have. And we already actually have it in place now, but we haven't paid for it. So the company gave us a grace time to pay for it in the next budget. Synology storage, this year we had bought one for PD, for their storage. The same thing is happening at City Hall. We don't have enough storage for our all the information that we save on our systems. So this will take care of our storage, increase of storage. ID card printer, we're planning to print ID cards for all the employees, the current and the new employees that come in. And 5 tablets for the commission. That way you guys can be handling all your stuff easier than having all the paperwork and the printouts. And we've been working for a long time now towards cutting down on printing. And this task has been really hard because we've been incurring lots and lots of money on printing. That means ink and paper and all the process behind it. So maybe this is one of the things that we can start also cutting. That way you guys you won't have all these paperworks in front of you. The second line item is increase in Windows and VMware. Basically, these are licenses that go with the server. The first two, Windows and VMware, these licenses go with the two servers that we are buying. These are the softwares that makes those servers run.
And how long are these good for?
It's just a one-time payment.
For a good while, you think?
Yeah, till we basically decommission the servers. And the lifetime of the server is usually between 4 to 5 years. And the last one, Office, this is the licenses for Microsoft Office. The license that we have is already, it's a 2010 version, so it's an old version. This helps us upgrade to the new version. And the last one is the encode upgrade. That's not the whole amount. The total amount is 57,000. The rest of it is going to utilities, to the utility fund. So this is part of the payment for the new version of encode. And just to clarify that this is not a payment for the software upgrade itself. All of this payment goes towards training. There's about 7 people who are going to travel here, and they're going to stay here and train one-on-one all the city employees for I think it's about 8 or 10 days. I don't remember exactly. But this cost is towards covering the training fees and not the upgrade, because the upgrade is for free. And I guess that's it. Yeah.
On the next line item, the Mayor Commissioners, we created emergency management under the fire chief. Chief, you want to talk real quick about that? The purpose of creating an emergency management division?
We could call it either new creation or contingency in case we have to activate our vehicles. This season, in fact, during hurricane season, we can pretty much have fun there in case we need, just for emergency purposes.
Next item there, increase on asset forfeiture and machinery equipment, totally in 105,000 cap.
Basically going to items, one is the machinery and equipment, that's for 25,000, is for furniture and such for the substation. And we're also going to put 80,000 in other equipment, that's going to be for 10 portable radios and 10 portable radios and unit radios for our vehicles to go digital.
Also, Mayor Commissioners, one of the things where we're preparing the budget, meeting with all the directors, we want to make sure that we cover those areas and items that, budget line items from last year that we were able to adjust this year. good fortune for us that the police department, has asset forfeiture funds that we can utilize. And that was the budget or the area that we looked at the most, at how we can, move and help the city through asset forfeiture funds. We can purchase other things that other departments don't have. So I think that was a plus on us also. Within consideration that utilizing asset forfeiture funds, we cannot either replace or supplant the general fund budget. So we can always increase the overall law enforcement budget, and that's why you see the numbers there and so forth. And in the current budget, you're gonna see that. But by talking to the CAPT also had a concern, and, we had a concern that this is, the adjustment for this year was only for this year, to reflect this year on the asset forfeiture, because, based on the needs of what we've been doing. Cap, real quick.
Is that we don't always get asset forfeiture money.
Get a microphone so it can get picked up by the recording there.
Basically, what happens is that we don't always get asset forfeiture money. We do have a lot of money still outstanding from other agencies, like our federal agencies. We have a lot of what we call DAGs still pending. But what I'm trying to say is that next year's budget, we might not be able to help out as much as we did this year, because it runs out. And sometimes the forfeiture money is long and in between.
Know how much you have out there pending, more or less?
Well, recently, we've been getting a couple of DAGs from this federal side, where they've been selling equipment, and we've been getting deposits for about $98, $80. It's not much. The big money ones, yeah, I think there's a couple $1 million still pending, but it all depends on how much they're gonna give us the percentage. Yeah. How long it's gonna take for us to get that money too is another thing, yeah.
Is there anyone to communicate with to find out,
No, it's just a matter when, it's that a lot of times they seize money from one case,
right?
and that case is a long-term case, so they don't go to court on that money. Let's say they seize $500,000 today. Tomorrow they seize another 20. Well, those cases is because it's a long-term case. They're going to be going when they finish the case itself. That could be another 2-3 years down the line. It could be as early as next month. It could be a lot longer. It all depends on when they terminate the investigation.
And for the record, last year's conversation, and we've done it throughout the year, we talked about deadlines in December the 15th, and I know we've discussed that too many months ago. We're not in any type of danger of losing anything that we have currently because of that deadline anymore. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. And also, we already encumbered some of it, not encumbered, but we already proposed that we're going to spend the $1 million for the substation that we're working on. So, no, there's no immediate need anymore on deadlines, and so we already covered that. And the next line item, that's increase the miscellaneous grants. The PD is also very fortunate to receive a lot of grants, and we total close to about $100,000 in grants, $130,000 for next year, but this is part of a Stone Garden grant, and it helps us with equipment, and also helps us with overtime and so forth. So this year, we did decrease the overtime for the police department to about $80,000, and we added, because of the grants that we have. We were fortunate we got a grant for $130,000 from Stone Garden. They're going to go in effect next year. So, plus some equipment, so that's going to help us alleviate some of that burden on the city.
Do you see any new monies coming in through the Homeland Security? Anything new available that might be coming down the pipeline?
No, Mayor, we have some grant money that's been allocated already to our special response team, and the equipment is already there to buy new vests and so forth. But that comes in every September or so forth. So the process starts again in April, May. So that's when the new funding comes into Homeland Security.
An April deadline?
Yes, yes. And the next one is increase in solid waste and other structures, 20,000, machinery and equipment, 15,000.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, here, $20,000 is to build a new storage room for the
recycling center where we keep our sandbags and our forklift and all that. The one there is pretty much falling down, so that's to build that. The
For
50
sandbags?
Well, it's to store sandbags, like for a hurricane, Mayor. We have at
How many
least,
do we store?
we've had as much as almost 2,000.
Forklifts, how many?
We have one forklift. We have brand-new forklift that we just bought. And we have we have also a spare one there the one that we had, we're fixing it so we can also use it.
How old is the storage that you have right now?
In here,
Chief,
you
you
have,
know,
but it's been here.
more or less?
I think when they had the original city shop there,
Yeah.
mechanic shop,
It's falling down.
That's falling down
20
already.
years maybe. And it's real small, and the thing is, we get sun rays in there and everything, that's what messes up the bags.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked, because I've seen
Yeah.
it's.
And so, Mr. Gonzalez, if I may, there's an existing slab there already, correct?
Yes,
Are
we
you
want to,
wanting to add on to it or
Yes.
demo and redo? What's the plan there?
what I want to do was I want to make it at least 30 and install a restroom there. And also have a little overhang. That way, when our workers are filling up the sandbags, they're under the elements, they're under the roof, they're not out there in the rain and all that. And so those are our plans with that. But yeah, I want to make it a little bigger to where we have plenty of room in there.
Now, is this the price to expand?
Yes, I think the highest bid was 19,000 something. They were all in the 19,000. They were all less than 20,000.
Building permit?
Pardon?
Building permit?
Yes. Mayor, Commissioner, also, Mr. Gonzalez also had a request that, from the utility, from the sanitation fund, if you look at page 155, and on your booklet, he requested to also to get a truck. Mike, you want to discuss that real quick? Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, there in a sanitation budget, we have revenue of 629,000.
What page was that?
155. We-
I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back real quick, how long ago was this project bid on?
On the storage room,
Uh-huh.
we had it for this year's budget, but, we can wait. It's just a month and a half from the new budget. So,
Will there have to be new bids or?
no, they'll honor the same bids that we have.
Good.
Yes, and the 15,100 are for our 12 3-cubic containers, 5 6-cubic containers, and 8 cubic containers, and that's to stay with the demand of our commercial accounts. And on page 155, what I was looking at, we have $629,462 in revenue from the sanitation department. I wanted to see if we could purchase a garbage truck from that money, and the
From which
garbage
one?
truck. Yes, a garbage truck will run maybe between 250, 260,000, and we'll still have revenues left over from that.
Let me go back to a presentation you made, Mr. Gonzalez. You mentioned that you were not going to need so many trucks. You said that you're going to be able to do everything with 3 trucks.
Right.
So what happens now?
No, well, we're going with 4 trucks, Mayor, and
How many trucks do we have?
we have 8 trucks in total.
Are they okay? Can you go check to see they're okay? Somebody with them? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Here, what I wanted to do is, we have a 2013 and 2011 that are in, they're broken down, but we just fixed them yesterday, and today we got the other part for the other truck. And with those 2, and then if we get a new one, and then use one of the other, I think we have an 09,
with those four in circulation on a daily, on a weekly basis, I think we're gonna be pretty well off. And the other two the other ones we can use in our cleanup, in our alley cleanups, in our brush cleanup. What we want to do is, put in 4 quadrants and put a roll-off, every day that we rotate, put a roll-off there, and then the other trucks, we can use them to haul off the garbage and all that. Just because the other trucks, we don't, they have a capacity of maybe 15 tons.
It's gonna be a front loader? Don't we need something for the
Yes,
commercial?
we need a front loader.
Is that what you're saying
But,
this
yeah,
one was
the front
gonna
loader's
be?
for the commercial accounts.
What
ma'am.
now?
The front loader's for the commercial accounts.
Right.
And a garbage truck is for garbage.
Right. So we are okay with the front loader?
No, we need a front loader. Our front loader is down and, I mean, it's back on service, Mayor, but, it breaks down often and,
I mean, I'm not giving you another one, I'm just, you're
No,
saying
no, no,
that the
but-
other one is, you
it's,
can-
we have it working.
functioning,
We have-
operational.
Yes, it's an operational. The thing is, Mayor, that when he goes down, we're gonna have a lot of trouble with our schools. Because the front loaders does all our commercial accounts, which is our schools and our schools and our commercial accounts. And when he breaks down, we go with our grappler to try to empty out the containers. And when they use the grappler, well, the arm is too big to go into the container, so we don't empty them out completely.
It's a mess, pretty much. what you're saying.
Exactly, and, in schools, there's a lot of milk, chocolate, and all that, so all that drifts into the buffers there at the schools, and we get complaints of the smell, maggots, and all that, so that's why it's very vital to have a backup for that truck.
I don't believe that that's OSHA approved either.
No, and as a matter of fact,
Mike, real quick, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, also, just for our discussions, and also going based on what the mayor asked also in the commission, is it, so is it better to get a garbage truck or a front loader for your commercial accounts?
I would go with a front loader, Chief.
How much
I
is,
would
how much is a front
prioritize-
load?
Yes, I would prioritize a front loader for the simple reason that, we cannot have that in our schools. In our
Did you see the
commercial
price,
accounts.
something like that would run, 250, you said?
Around 250. What I wanted to do is see what we get approved and then go out for bids and get bid on all of our equipment that we're gonna, purchase. Because now, I call and I ask for quotes and they go, well, you're just asking for quotes, you're not gonna buy nothing from us, so they don't wanna provide us with quotes.
That's ridiculous.
I know.
That is
I know.
ridiculous.
And that's the trouble we run into. That's why I prefer to see what we're gonna buy. So we have a general idea as to what the prices are, and then we'll just go out for bids and, bid it all out. But yeah, I prioritize a front loader over a garbage truck, because we can always utilize our other trucks, and, maybe they don't go to the capacity they're supposed to. Like, for example, we got several trucks that have a capacity of 15 tons, but we're only putting 7 tons on them because, the compaction is not there anymore, and the hydraulics are not working the way they're supposed to, so, but we can improvise what we have.
And I want to ask about how much is in the fund? If we're looking at the sanitation fund, correct?
It's on page 155. And we
Right
have-
now, the only thing that we have in excess, what we have in excess right now is based on the budget that you're projecting, we would be at 629,000. We're currently at 482,000 collected, correct?
No.
No.
The year-to-date, it's 637,000, and the city manager recommended it's at 629,462.
Okay, so if we did the projections for revenues of 29,780, we're actually just kind of going a bit less for this year, correct? About 50,000, about 50,000 less. And you're stating that we're not changing anything when it comes to our residents, except for the fees that we're generating, that we've implemented, and that's what you're counting on, some of those revenues, correct? Now, you remember the folks that came in and spoke to us about that eco park? And the whole concept, it may not kick in. I'm not sure how quickly, if at all. But that comes into mind about those possibilities that, would we need that many vehicles? Would we be able to use this for something else? I mean, the thought comes about some of the collection, and at one point, we had I don't know, you don't call them a shredder, what do you call these things that you take the brush and you're chipping it?
Sure,
A
the
chip-
chipper.
Okay. We used to have one, and I think you said that it was too small or it wasn't functioning.
It's there, Mayor. What we're doing right now, we're trying to get a hitch and attach it to one of our brush trucks. And since they go to the alleys and cut very small brush, just to clean the air so the trucks can go by, we're gonna start chipping it there on site. Because we don't have a tractor to put in the landfill, to be put in the brush inside the chipper. The truck that we do have is out in the alleys, getting the brush from the alleys.
So what's gonna, I guess, if we, I know that, have we done the burning yet, Chief Garza over there?
The permit was denied.
Híjole, so what are we gonna do about that?
I had an option on that, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
One of the options another option is out there, maybe leasing some properties out of town. That we can get maybe about 10 acres and just lease it for maybe a month to get caught up. That was another option I was looking at. The permit was denied for the simple reason that the location that we're looking at was the old landfill. And we can't touch that property or you can't do anything with that land for 75 to 100 years. So they didn't allow the permit. So one of the other options would be to be able to get caught up, if we can get caught up, would be to lease maybe 10 acres out there. Maybe somebody's got something that we can lease. It's another.
That route, the brush that's there now, we have to transfer it to the,
Well,
so that's another headache right there, no?
I recommended 130,000 on capital outlay, Mayor.
For
so
what?
So that we can shred all the brush that's there.
For what? For a what?
For all the brush that's there at the landfill, it'll cost about 130,000 to shred all the
All of
brush
it?
that's there.
Now, for the shredding, like the year before, we didn't have to do 130,000 for shredding, right?
I really don't know what the cubic, the square
I
footage
mean, we
there
were able
was.
to keep up with it, right?
Well, yes.
So I guess, and I remember we've had this conversation, we talked about, maybe we had extra amount of brush this year because of the circumstances with the storms and things like that. And that might be the exception, I'm hoping. But, I think that before we get to that point, there has to be something that would be able to mitigate it, so we're not looking at having to rent another land. We're not looking at having to spend 130,000. I can use that 130,000 on a street in neighborhoods. Well, no, not in this, I'm sorry, it's the wrong fund. But we could use it in something else if we would be able to mitigate it. I guess if I know that situation is occurring, what's the plan that we've, besides the 130,000, is there anything less expensive that either, renting an equipment to do the shredding, or we're going as, if Chief's saying we need to go somewhere else to do that, the time that we're going to transfer and things like that? I mean, what can we do to mitigate it, to make sure that we're not looking to having to add this again in another budget year? What do we do?
Well, there, what we're going to do is, for example, go on maybe a 2 or 3 year plan where, for example, this year, the 130 was cut down to 50,000. Use those 50,000 to clean up the area and then start separating, Mayor, because there's several areas there that are clean brush, it's all brush. But then there's areas that we pick up where it's mixed. When we go to the alleys or to the streets, it's all mixed, and when the people go to our landfill and take it there, it's also mixed. And it's very hard to separate it.
Mike, have we implemented already the discussion that we had also is that we need to put some sort of in the neighborhoods so it won't be mixed, so people can separate the brush from all the other, furniture stuff? Can we put a container in that neighborhood and then let the people know? I mean, I think that we used to do that before, Chief. And then I think that,
Successfully.
the way that the landfill looks right now, Mayor Commissioners, is that I think within the next 90 days, we're going to be to capacity.
And we can get some fines because of that, too.
Yes, and I think the chief, fire chief's been working hard trying to get that permit, but we need to either rent a shredder or a bigger machine. Also have a plan of action that we discussed that start in the next cycle, notifying our community residents to separate the brush and have them put those containers there so they can, dump the other
And-
debris, because it's hard for, especially right now. I can tell you that the rain stops all your work out there, because you can't move the tractors, can't move it at all. We just want this. Okay. Great. Okay.
Probably gonna wind up helping us a little, is gonna be, both of the bonfires.
That's an option.
We can have it at the,
That's usually, yeah, well, that's pretty, but that's normally when the previous, director would relieve some of that load from that landfill, was taking it over there, and it would help, because we were never that close to the street as we are now.
and
Mike,
like I said-
what about was it last year, the year before that there was a burn pit machine that we bought, and it was traded back in? Can we get a new one to burn some of the brush here?
Wasn't here when that happened, Chief.
Ms. Carmen?
The only problem that we would have, Mayor, Commissioners, is that the reason why we don't have it now, it's TCEQ took the permit away because of the wetlands. We can't burn.
Close to the wetlands. Okay.
But what Chief and I had talked about in planning on going to the four areas was that we can put 2 or 3 roll-offs where we can have, separate all our debris, and on a daily basis, just take it straight to the landfill instead of bringing it here and then taking it, hauling it over there. So that's something that's gonna fall hand in hand once we start implementing all this. But it's gonna take a little time. And like I said, hopefully we can, by doing that, like Chief said, last year we did a lot of that. We took to all the high schools, clean brush for the bonfires. We did that last year. And we can do that again this year. I'll talk to
We
PSJ.
can't offer the other high schools brush for their bonfires?
Both, usually right after PSJ has theirs, Alamo has theirs.
Memorial has theirs.
They dump over there.
We took last year to north,
Or north, too.
yeah, we took to north a little bit, and, because north and Memorial, they do the letter, the M and the N. And PSJ High is the only one that has they do request a lot of brush. But, those are our plans right now, to try to clean up as much as we can, and then start hauling things away by putting them in the different areas. Don't take any more debris back to the landfill, take it straight to Edinburgh, and they'll give us time to start cleaning up over here while we're picking up over here. If, for example, one of our roll-offs is down, and we have all our roll-offs there full, but we don't have the vehicles to take them over to the landfill in
how many
Edinburgh.
roll-offs do we have?
Pardon?
How many do we have?
We have 2.
Only 2 roll-offs?
And one of them's broken down, so, we're still working, but it's at a very slow pace, and the ratio of debris coming in and going out is like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. That's the reason why it's going like that. I mean, I don't understand, most people trim in March and April, but apparently it's year-round. It just never stops, it's just ever coming and coming and coming.
How much
And-
are those machines, Mike? The shredders or the chippers that you call them?
I really haven't, we need a commercial size, a large one, but I haven't checked on that, Chief, but I'm gonna look into all those options.
If not rental, I mean, I don't know that we're
No,
always going to be
purchase.
this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping, maybe not hoping, but making sure that the understanding is we're not going to get to this point again.
Right.
And whatever it is that is hindering, I think for the first year, as you're trying to catch up, I think a rental. Then you get a sense of, you know what, this is something that we're only going to keep up if we have an actual machine. Because, seeing 130,000 just to, I'm not even remember what that was for anymore, but
Just to clean it up.
just to clean it up makes really no fiscal sense. if we have something to prevent, I don't just want to react, I want to be proactive. That means that we need to, instead of doing 130,000, let's rent something that would help us be cleaning this up. And then we always talk that our residents are honest, hey, we can't get anything clean in the alleys. If we are able to do that, and it means that we need to buy 1 or 2 more of those big containers so that we have a program to go into the neighborhoods at different times during the month, I prefer to do that so that we're doing the garbage collection and we're telling them, you gotta separate it, but if we can help them and assist them in throwing their garbage. Because at one point, I don't care anymore. I've got too much brush and I got too much garbage and I'm gonna throw it. And that really what's kind of happened. And if we're not moving fast enough because we can't put anything back in the landfill, we're gonna be in the situation over and over. So, I mean, I like to explore that more, that I think we have, getting quotes as to, and I know, and even the precinct had a big shred at one time that they wanted a station here because they could bring their stuff and we use their stuff. And that worked for a while. I mean, that if we can go back and find out what would it cost us to do this so that we don't, through the year, so we don't get into the situation again. And then we can have an analysis whether it's worth us buying one or doing the rental and we help ourselves. And then instead of 130,000, I like to see some of those roll-offs that we can have at, I call them roll-offs, I don't know what you call the big old
They're
containers,
roll-offs.
to go to neighborhoods and have this cleaned up and help our residents.
Those are our plans, Mayor. Like I said, we have about 6 or 7 roll-offs at the landfill. We can always remove 2 and take them every day as we move along. We'll be moving them to the different areas, and they'll be dumping. We'll just be carrying them with it, and then that'll give us time with 4 more roll-offs over there where we can start hauling, and it'll be a big event, so we're gonna be putting more there. But I think that's a great idea as far as, renting and
I mean, it's just a suggestion, and instead of doing the 30,000 to just clean up, let's have a plan. And if it means that we clean up, but we're also figuring out, I don't know that we would spend that much. It's just,
well, it's something that I'll look into, Mayor. And
I would like
put some
that.
figures on that.
And as far as the garbage truck, I mean, if you're saying that what you're trying to get is a front loader, then every other truck that we have, how many are we gonna sell?
I would like, well, out of the 8, I would like to keep at least 6 and maybe just sell 2. The reason is I want to have spares available.
You have what?
I want to have at least 2 spares available, Mayor. If the 4 that we have, if one of them breaks down, well, we have 2 available to help us out. So if anything, we sell probably just 2.
And then we're still doing recycling pickup, and we're gonna change to, what are we doing with the recycling pickup of the folks? What are we doing about that?
Also, we're using one of our, like when we go to 4 trucks, on the other 2, one will be doing the recycling. We have about maybe, I don't know, it's over 150, 160 recycle containers that we have out there, and one of our garbage trucks does all those pickups.
Have we caught up with the waiting list on that?
Yes, pretty much.
I never got mine,
You never get yours?
No, sir.
I'll check into that.
or my other folks that I know that, I told them it's a long waiting list, I just keep telling where it's.
Because I
perpetual
gave,
waiting list.
I gave recycling 100, and we kept 100 for our residential accounts, but I'll check and see if there's still some available.
I think we need to evaluate the recycling
Yes, Mayor,
program, sir, because I know there was a lot of interest in it, and I think we did a lot of pilot studies. People were signing up, and I don't know if that's relieving the trash pickup. Of course, that seems to be the reason why we were supposed to do it, for several reasons to do that. Prevent some of the extra trips over to the landfill as well.
So, and that also uses another one of our trucks, so, that'll keep us 1 truck from our routes.
And let me ask you, what kind of money do you get from the recycling? What are the things that we're supposed to get money
It's an
from?
average of about 1,600, 1,700 a month that comes in, more or less.
That's from.
I'm giving you just a rough estimate on that.
Okay. Can you provide that at the next, I really want to see that at the next
I'll
commission
provide you
meeting? Because as we're looking, what we're doing with the recycling as well, if not this year, the following year, I'd like to know not that it's going, it's not going to be a money maker, but it can defer something, but I'd like to know how effective it is. There were some really great ideas and some, at one point, of how we were gonna be able to generate because of the kind of things we were collecting and the participation. So I want a breakdown of what do we collect and how much we get paid for what we're collecting.
I was putting some numbers on that, Mayor, about a week ago, and it doesn't look like it's cost effective.
No, we all realize
Yeah.
that. This is just our contribution, back to our environment to take care of it, doing what, we should do, our consciousness about what
Right.
our part participation. I think it's why it's done. Plus, we do a lot of we're supposed to be doing a lot of community presentations, information. So I'd like to see it at the next commission meeting, the next Tuesday.
I'll get you something.
I don't know about the 130,000.
That's fine, Mayor. I'll
On a
get you-
personal level, I don't know about that much for that. I'd like to see a different plan of how we would invest the 130.
Mayor, Commissioner, just to advise on that, is that we only allocated 50,000 to help out on that. And it was not 130,000, so. So for recommendation on the director's recommendation for the front loader, is that something that the mayor and commission wants us to look at?
Well, then, what I like also, if it's going to be a front loader for businesses, I want to know what we did with those accounts that are past due. I mean, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that we did correct those accounts.
I think we're
They
pretty much
were-
cut up,
All our
with,
past due accounts,
Yes,
everybody's
the
paid up.
commercial accounts, they're already up to date.
Accounts that still haven't been,
More or less, what are we looking at?
I don't remember, and I don't want to tell you something. Do you recall, Ms. Gonzalez?
We can get that information, Mayor. for
Yeah, we'll
next
look
meeting.
into that.
I wanted next meeting too. Because, I mean, if we have, it was a good amount. So we have a good amount out there that needs to get paid. It helps pay off this loader if we can collect them. And I don't know how long we have to collect on them, but I know some of those were really past due.
I believe it was around 80-some thousand, right?
80 something, it was a big number.
Yeah.
So we're leaving it on the table, right?
Yes, Mayor Protem, we're gonna get the information, so, get the front loader, so we can get the exact price more or less on it, and also, get the clarification on the commercial accounts outstanding and see exactly what number is out there. And what the process that we implement. I know that with the city attorney, we had already looked at some, trying to get them money, trying to seek something back. So we're working on that as well.
With the new ordinance, we are picking up all commercial accounts.
Yes,
So whether they haven't paid or not, we still need to be able to pick up for the commercial accounts,
that's correct,
regardless.
that's correct.
And have we assured that they are? That everybody switched over? Because I still see these trucks
No,
going.
no, no, they all haven't switched over yet, Mayor. This is the reason why we ordered the containers that we did, the 12 3 cubics and the 6 and the 8 cubics. So we can switch all those containers out.
Folks have not switched.
I'll get to that next meeting. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, Javier and I are gonna go over to Dicker Road. There's a business out there that has a container, they have, what, 2 large?
It's a large business.
It's a very large business, and,
that we're contacting. So once we get that account, that should be a real good account.
How much energy we give them?
Well, we're going to meet with them tomorrow because they have an existing contract. So hopefully they have just a few more months left in their existing contract. So we can take over after that. But that's a really good account that we're going to be getting real soon. There's another one on Stewart, close to Military Highway, that we're going to visit. That's another real good account. New businesses coming in on Stewart and on the expressway. Those are new accounts coming in. So there should be increases in revenues coming in.
Do you see that those particular accounts that would be serviced by this front loader, would that take how long to pick up? How long do we take to pick up commercial accounts? Do we just go to commercial accounts with a front loader, then do that first?
the front list for commercial accounts, Mayor, is in some we pick up twice a week, and others 3 times a week. Some 2 times and others 3 times. The
Depending what
schools are
they're
3
paying.
times. The schools are 3 times a week, and the other commercials are 2 times a week.
So is that truck always running? And just for the commercial?
Well, normally they run, well, yeah, it's all week, because some are Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, others are Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I don't know if you covered it, Mike, but as far as the garbage trucks, when they break down, why does it take so long to get them back on the road?
Well, right now, we have to, get POs, and sometimes, we don't have the tools to fix it, so we have to go for outside repairs. And, it takes a while to get them, but, like, for right now, it's kind of hard to, right now, we're trying to balance the budget and all that, and so it takes a little longer to get a PO for the trucks, but.
How long does it take you to get the PO?
Well, in some cases, it takes us 2 days or 3 days.
There's no way to speed it up? You can't keep them and keep some of that stuff in stock so that when you need it?
We can, for example, look on our trucks, right? Most of them are commercial trucks, and we can start, and when I first came in, I started to have a small warehouse where we can keep, warehouse for, all our departments, but since we went to, every department signing for their POs, so their quotes, it kind of broke down, but I have 2 areas there at the shop, one in the bottom, one in the top, where I try to store, like air filters and all that. It's a lot cheaper buying in bulk than it is buying one at a time. So that's something that hopefully, we can get done soon and keep in stock for all the fleets and just the basic parts like air filters, oil filters. We do buy the oil in bulks and all that, but I think that if we keep in stock, it'll be a lot easier. Sometimes we just get a PO for a little switch or little lights or whatever. I think that by creating a warehouse there at the department, and on a small scale, I'm not talking nothing big, but something that'll be cost effective for the city.
What is the average cost of those switches when you have to purchase them?
Some they vary from $9 to $15. It depends what kind of a switch it is. And also, like everything now with sensors, So, these are all things that hopefully, we can create and start a warehouse there at the department.
What if it's a major part that needs, the truck needs? Now, is it something that you can just buy over the counter, or do they have to order it?
Sometimes they have to order.
And how long does
Commissioner.
that take, sir?
It varies, but 2 to 3 days at least.
Okay.
2 to 3 days at least, and so, and like I said, like especially if they're the pistons on because most of our trucks are hydraulics, and the pistons break down or the kits break down with all the wear and tear that they have. So yes, sometimes we don't have tools sometimes to unplug, and we have to drain all the hydraulic fluids from it. Then we have to replace kits and all that. So it's very time consuming.
How long is the labor on that, if it's one of the pistons?
The labor.
Yeah. How long would it take to
Our guys, it'll take quite a bit because they're heavy. Well, it depends on the size. There are small ones and there are large ones. And it'll take a good week.
So
And-
if we contracted that out, it breaks down today, you take it to the shop that can do that, they return it in a day or 2, and they've got the labor and costs. Have you ever tried to see how that would be cost effective? And
On the pistons, normally it's 3-4 days, Mayor. It's not really a.
no matter who,
No matter who.
us or
because-
somebody else,
Yeah,
whether they have them on stock or
no,
not?
because they have to drain it and they have to have special tools to take it out and then replace the kit, and they have to have a special to compact it in and all that. So it takes time. And you need the right to have it, to work. And if we don't have the tools, well, we have to contract out, subcontract.
We don't have the tools because we've never bought the tools, because we've lost the tools, because what?
We don't have tools because They don't have to, the mechanics have their own, bring in their own tools.
Right, but we've talked about that, and we know that that's something that keeps occurring. Is there any plan that we have those tools so these things happen? Did you include that in here?
Yes, I made a proposal, and
Where is that?
it's in sanitation, in capital outlay.
Was that included last year, Mike?
Pardon?
Was it included last year?
Yes,
And
So
it
you
was
already have tools?
removed?
it was cut last year, and this year, pardon me?
So you have tools already?
No, they have, the mechanics bring in their own tools, and I had requested, I remember I put 30,000 on, 20,000 on the,
Mayor, Commissioners, let me interject here real quick. Some of the things that, when we talk about tools, we talk about small tools and larger tools, specialized tools. The problem that we have in is the fact, and the problem that we have not identified when we talk about trying to budget something for those tools, that we don't know what tools we need. And we're trying to identify because our mechanics and so forth, we're dealing with hydraulic equipment and so forth. So there's some small tools that are basic tools, like things that, electrical tools, stuff like that, but then there's some specialized tools. So when Mike talks about a budget, so our major concern was that we needed exactly more or less what type of tools, and if they're, we can buy some specialized equipment, but if we got the operator that cannot operate it, it serves no purpose. So that's one thing that he was tasked to make sure that the tools that we're going to allocate to the department is exactly the tools that are needed to get those vehicles back on track. But one of the other things that we did do with him in that section is the fact that if we don't have the specialized personnel within, we need to outsource it and get those trucks out there in the road as quick as possible. I think it's having them to wait, say 2 hours or so forth is not something that we're proud of to say, but we need to expedite some of the PO and so forth, and like your question, so we can expedite them. So we're looking at them here. So when we identify some tools, we're identifying, and we're still trying to identify exactly what tools, and not only that, what specialized training that our personnel needs also to do that. So if not, we're just going to outsource it for now in professional services to make sure that they get those vehicles back on track, because there is concern on that.
Chief, I'd love to see what we spent on fixing these trucks, because, just talking here, Mayor and Commission, it seems to me that the quantity of trucks is not the problem, it's the quality or lack thereof. And I'd like to see what we've actually spent having to fix these machines, because, if you can get new trucks and it offsets and it's a wash, well, you're providing a better service and you're not having to worry so much about, hydraulic equipment and things of that nature as much. You're always going to have trucks go down. But if we've spent the same amount as what a new truck is going to cost us, we need to look at different things, like this front-end loader, not only, that's one of the major concerns that the citizens bring to us is trash and brush, and in addition, on this commercial avenue, that's actually revenue for us. And if we're falling behind $80,000, then obviously it's because our equipment is not able to handle it. And so, if we're losing money because our trucks are decommissioned for a certain amount of days, we really need to take a look at this, because not only are we losing money, but we're making people mad at the same time. And so, it's a very big subject, so.
And even sometimes when we go out for repairs, we take it out and there's other of ours. So that delays it a little more also sometimes. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes, but it all plays a factor, and
Mayor, Commissioners, I just want to direct you to page 159, just for, make sure that we are very clear, we clarify some of this discussion here. At the very bottom, you can see there on supplies section there, on those line items, we have allocated over at least close to $155,000, $150,000 for repairs, $75,000 for repairs on the vehicles. Another repair and maintenance supplies, $25,000. On the small tools for our mechanics there, $1,000. And then also on other equipment that close to $54,000. So we have allocated some funding to that already, so he can be able to do that.
And let me ask you
Yes.
that the, On our current budget, we're showing actual 20,000 in cost for a repair. What's included in that? The garbage trucks and what else?
Garbage and brush trucks and our tractors.
So it's numerous vehicles.
Right.
And that's like regular
But really, it's
maintenance
just
also?
one tractor that we have, we only have one tractor, but mainly it's just our garbage trucks and our,
But it's regular maintenance as
Right.
well on all the vehicles and?
yes.
Now, you talked about tools and you're recommending 1,000 on those tools.
That's small
Those
tools.
are the ones that you've identified that we're not having? Or just, are those, that would help for the repairs that are being made, or what?
Those, Mayor, are to replace one of the things that we're trying to avoid here is that we don't want our mechanics to buy their own tools. They shouldn't be burning with that. We should not burden any employee to buy tools to do the job that, in the city. So that's why we allocated that $1,000 to make sure they purchase those small tools so they can do the work, and so that $1,000 is for that, to making sure that they're not burdened, and not only that, so they have those tools there available to them.
So how do you monitor that, chief?
And that's one thing that, also, the other
You-
thing is that through asset forfeiture, or not asset forfeiture, I think the abandoned cases that we had a lot of tools that were given to us, to the police department, and we gave them, a couple of hundred, not thousands of parts of, or types of tools that we assigned also to them. But I think that Mike already has a plan of action that is gonna allocate or assign a set of tools to each mechanic to make sure that, hey, that's his tools and that's their tools.
So at the end of the day, they check them back in with you, or with who?
No, there, what we do, we have two sets of mechanic, one for our heavy equipment and one for our fleets, all the vehicles, the rest of the vehicles. When the police department gave us those tools, we took inventory, and then we have them in a toolbox. So every day, Mr. Joe Martinez checks all those tools, make sure they're all there. And they don't use all the tools, they just use several tools. They don't use all the tools every day. They just take one, whatever they take, but they just put them, they just have small tools, and that's what they use there.
Same thing as like the laptop Sandra gave me. The laptop, the case, the mouse, sign right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so say, I gotta turn that back in. I have to turn all those items or not. I gotta pay for it, I'm assuming, or whatnot, right? So.
Correct.
So I guess you guys come up with some kind of, same thing.
Yeah, we have a list, Sarah,
Yeah.
of what's in inventory. And like I said, every vehicle has different parts. So, it's kind of hard to tell what parts they're using. But like I said, they take them in small, whatever they use it, they clean them, and then put them back at the end of the day. We have a mechanic that stays till 5 o'clock. And me, him, Juan Soto, and we're there, and he puts in his tools and locks them up.
Any other questions?
On the next line item there that you have, Mayor, that's the utility department. Mr. Martinez, you want to address that real quick on the software, machinery, equipment that we're purchasing also, and that the two vehicles and machinery for 62,000?
On the utility,
Yeah.
on the software, I would have to get back to you because I'm not familiar with that.
I think
Okay,
yeah,
on the
it's,
software, that's a portion for Encode, the Encode update. We're paying certain portion from the general fund and another portion from the utilities department.
I just wanted clarification also for the Mayor Commission on the two new vehicles there that you are requesting. What are they replacing and what purpose?
One of them is for water distribution, it's going to be replacing Unit 231.
Okay.
I believe it's a 2004 F-150. And the other one is for water plant. I believe that's going to be replacing an old Crown Victoria. It's, I'm not too sure what year it is, but it's a Crown Victoria that they use at the water plant.
And that vehicle has special equipment on it, you said, or what?
Excuse me?
that vehicle, the $58,000 one?
No, Mayor, that's two vehicles.
Two
Yeah, that 58,000 reflects two vehicles.
And we're getting two because?
To replace some other vehicles that we have. Mr. Martinez, you want to elaborate on that real quick? on
How
that?
old are the ones you're replacing, and what seems to be the
I
problem?
know the one for water distribution, the unit 231, that one's 2004, if I'm not mistaken.
And what now?
2004.
Okay.
And Crown Victoria, I'm not too sure what year it is. I think it's like an 03 or 04 also.
By any chance, do you have the mileage or no? The mileage on them?
The F-150, I know it has like 120, more or less.
2004?
Yes.
It just breaks down a lot, or what?
It's a real problem.
And the other one you think is older than this one?
I need to check and see. I don't think that they did get trucks last year. The utilities department didn't get any trucks?
Right, right. That's the second one. Okay,
The unit 278.
that one makes sense.
How much mileage? I'm not sure. Oh.
And that comes strictly from the utility fund, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay.
We also have the change in the reclassifications on the pay scales for the collection system.
For the utilities, for the entry study that Ramiro did for the, I think just wasn't added. I think that's what probably we were missing, just that it wasn't added on there.
Which one was that, Ms. Cordero?
He's talking about the study that Ramiro did. based on
Okay,
the budget
okay.
For utilities, to reclassify the collection system operators on their entry pay. It was gonna change from 9.718 to $10, and for whatever license that they have.
We did include.
So it's included on the budget, right? But it's not included on the highlights, right?
The highlight says no salary adjustments, promotions, or reclassifications.
Disclosure, people?
And that's what, so I wanted to go back, Mayor, Commission, to salary adjustments. And those are the two areas that I wanted to discuss, that we needed, of course, in the utility department, so we can attract personnel coming in and I
That's how
think,
many positions, Chief?
I think there's two positions? Sure.
There's actually three different levels.
Depends on the license that they have. And it'll affect the new hires. When they come in, instead of coming in without a license, when they come in without a license at 9.718, they're gonna come in at $10, which is basically what you did this current budget. This is the second phase on one of the other divisions.
How many positions do we need to fill right now? Do you know? How many have we lost?
Right now, I think they're all full.
Oh, they all are?
For sewer collection, we have one?
For sewer collection, they're all.
Two?
One that's vacant.
Okay.
And the other salary, Mayor, Commissioner, that I wanted to allow Mr. Baca an opportunity here to come before you all, and it's a salary adjustment. Might be a hardship that he's going through, something that, based on his status, so forth. Mr. Baca, you want to discuss
Yes. This goes back to last year. Last year, I did my paperwork after working for the city for about 11 months as a volunteer. I went ahead and did my visa. And I got my visa based on some paperwork that the city and I and the attorney worked together towards accomplishing. And according to immigration rules, the position that I applied to for the city has a certain amount of money that the city has to pay me. And at that time, it is still the same. It's 60,000 plus minus, I think, a few $100s, but I don't remember exactly how much. And at that point, the commission last year decided to give me the average of all the directors, which is 57 now. So for me, I've been, for 1 year, I've been working at the 57, but I'm kind of stuck now because I can't work on my paperwork because of that. I need the 3,000 so I can be at the 60,000, which is what immigration set, so I can start working on my paperwork. And I'm kind of stuck lingering here. My family is all the way on the other side of the world, and I'm here stuck because I can't do my paperwork because I'm short on those monies. So this is where it all comes from. Last year it was kind of phase 1. It should have already been done since last year, but now it's kind of another phase that I have to go through. That way I can start processing my paperwork. That's where I stand right now.
Okay, I'm just.
Yeah.
57,000, you can't do your paperwork, you get the 60, you can start doing your paperwork.
True.
How does that work? What does that mean?
Okay, according to immigration rules, when you want to get a visa, an H-1B visa, which is a working visa, you have to apply for a position. You apply with the position. If the company, in our case the city, approves and wants to hire you, you send the documentation of the position and the job description to immigration, and they set how much your salary should be. So they set how much.
Immigration.
Yes.
And not until you get that salary can you start your paperwork.
The thing is, I had to be on that salary even last year. It's kind of, I have to be on that salary. So I haven't been complying for last year. That's what it means. So for me to continue my paperwork, I have to be complying. I have to be at the level that they put me at to be able to continue. Because for them, if they get my check stubs, they're going to look at them. They're going to say, you know something, you're not getting what you're supposed to get. We're not going to continue with your paperwork. By rule, I should get that so I can continue my paperwork. That's what it is. And just to clarify that this is all in paper, it's all documented. We have everything. Everything we have documented in HR. So if you want to take a look at it, it's very clear on all the paperwork that HR has exactly how much I should get and why and all the details in it. Everything is available, documented, everything since last year. So if we go over them, it will clearly say why and how and everything. I know the city hasn't gone through this process of hiring immigrants. I'm the first one. But this is usual for any other, and schools are very well known for it, especially also here in the Valley. The schools do hire lots of immigrants, and they go through this process every year with hundreds of employees that they have.
Okay, so if you're a teacher and they're going through that same process, the immigration people, they give you a salary as in, okay, but if you're gonna be a teacher and we wanna approve your visa, you need to be making $45,000 a year. So if they give them a contract for, let's just say 42,000, then they don't qualify, they can't.
True.
Have you looked at the paperwork, Chief?
Oh, that,
Have you looked at that paperwork?
we did, not this year, but last year. And last
Right, I
year,
remember
did
last
we came to an average more or less, and that we wanted to work with based on the budget from last year. But during the discussion of the budget, he did brought up the issue that this year was one of those years that he needed to have that particular salary there in order for him to go through his, status there. So that's something that I wanted from
Right.
Mayor Commission.
Last year, when it was brought up and it was discussed. I don't remember agreeing to an average. I remember putting them on the same playing field
Yes,
as
exactly,
everybody
same,
else.
yeah, same as the other
54.5,
directors, that's correct.
exactly.
That's correct.
I don't remember agreeing to this average that's being brought up today. But you also said it was a range. You also mentioned to us at that time that
That's
it was a
correct.
range. It wasn't a specific amount. From what I'm hearing right now, he's saying that it's a 60,000 plus, that it's a set amount. But have you looked at the paperwork to
No,
verify
not yet, and that, I
that
was
that's
gonna
what
get
it
with
is?
him. I was gonna get with him, and we're gonna get with him to make sure that that's exactly the amount. So we don't have to revisit this again next year, so we wanna make sure that we're there, yeah.
My only question would be is, obviously you stated to us that you are not in compliance. Are we not in compliance by any stipulation?
No, yeah,
for
we
not
are in
hiring?
compliance, we're in
We are.
compliance, yeah, we're not forced to do this.
Right.
Okay, there's no legal requirement that we have to do,
Okay.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Last year and this year, but I think that's been a vested employee. I think that's something that we considered last year, and like anybody, other directors, I think all the directors are vested, they've done a great job. But I feel that, that's what we considered last year, and that's what we discussed, and last year he was given the average of all the directors that Ms. Cordero proposed. But there was still some discussion as to, are we legally or not legally? The city of San Juan has not received anything that says that we're not in compliance.
I guess the same discussion, and it was a very lively discussion that took place last year. It goes back, really, we talked numbers, and I think in his situation, when we looked at why would we do this for him, I think some of you that are new to it might not be fully aware of what he brings to the table. And I think it goes beyond the immigration issue. It really comes to what you put at the table. We're looking at, over the utilities, we want to make sure that we attract the people that we need. So we have to do this. We have to take that bite and do that so we can keep people at work. And in this situation, if we had and I've always asked him to do a summary, and he's yet to do it for me, of how much he has done since the time that he walked into the city of San Juan to the time that we are now in upgrading and cost effectiveness savings to the city. It was phenomenal. Not to say that the other folks are not working at the same thing, but they might not have the same situation. The specialty of what he does at the price that we're paying him is incomparable if we were trying to do it with somebody else from some other city, and the level of expertise that he has. That we would be able to find somebody like him at what he wants to get paid, I hardly think that we would. At least we would not be able to afford it. And we did comparables last time about the salaries that get paid in other cities for folks in directorships with the kind of experience that he has and has been able to do. We're talking, I think at that time it was like 75,000 and upwards. And we're just talking about him at 57. What's difficult in looking at salaries for folks is we've got people who have masters who are in their 50s. And we know that they're what they bring to the table education-wise and experience-wise. It's all a combination. You may not have the masters, but you've got the experience. Sure. And so, but here we have the experience and we've got the title. And we've got, more than anything else, the proven track record that he has here at the city. And so if it means that, and he's telling me, I don't think, that, we did the 57 last time because the folks did not want to take him to 60. I think he was due that the last time. Are we going to haggle over 3,000 and then he leaves? And we don't do what we go back. I truly believe we take steps back. And we'll find somebody else, and we'll have somebody that'll come in, and they're going to have to learn the system, and we're going to go back, and we're not going to. I think it's obvious, and maybe those of you that are new to sit and visit with him, what has been changed, and talk to the staff. What's changed in your departments because of what he's done? Cost-wise, what has been made available to the city about what he's implemented because of what he's implemented? And I think that's, it's not, and it's never had been in my eyes last year or this year or any other coming year. It's not about either status or or even that. I think that he has more than paid for himself over time, and no one's asked to do that. You're just asked to work for the job that you do. But he is actually, in his position, is able to bring something back and cost savings to the city, that if we do 3,000, if it means that we don't get the tablets this year, I don't care. I'd rather have you being able to stay within the city to provide the kind of services that you have and taking us into the 21st century like you have. And the kind of projects that we want to continue doing. I mean, I think it's pretty, I think it's a no-brainer.
But budget-wise, I just want to clarify a few things that the new commission doesn't know. The first year of my employment here, I was getting $12 an hour. I graduated from Pan Am, and after a month, I was working for the city of San Juan for $12 an hour. The year after that, I started getting 15 and a half, I think, or something, somewhere there, $15.50 an hour. The third year, I was assigned a $47,000 per year, which I didn't get a dollar from, because my work permit expired and I had to volunteer for almost 11 months. So the 47 of the third year, I got zero out of it. It was still in my budget. So those are the first 3 years. This is the first year that I get the 57,000. And my family has to go was back home, and now I can't bring them back until I do my paperwork. So that's my 4-year story.
Mayor, Commissioners, if I may, I just want to make sure that staff here understand the fact that every employee and every director is valuable. You know, I think that they're all well deserving of their salaries, and I feel that if we could, I think all of them are deserving of a pay raise as well, as long as our employees, you know. So I think this is not about one employee or so. I think that, you know, like you mentioned also, it goes beyond just issues like that. But I think that I just want them to, you know, feel that, or also realize the fact that, you know, if we could, I think that, you know, every employee, you know, I met our sanitation department this afternoon to introduce the 3 new vehicles to them, you know, and I had a moment with them as well, telling them that, you know, we appreciate the hard work they've done in this year and all the issues that we've gone through it, but they were real proud to see the 3 new vehicles compared to the vehicles they had, you know, no air conditioning, run-down vehicles, stuff like that. So I think that, you know, every single employee for the city goes beyond what they expected to do. So I think that that's something that I just wanted to make sure that they know that, and so and all the employees know that, and I know that the Mayor and Commission appreciates all the work, and I think that they're all deserving, and so I just wanted to make sure I address that you know, if we could, you know, the city was in financial stability, that we were able to, by the discussions that I had with all of you, that we were able to, you know, improve our benefits here. But this is some of the minor things that we can focus on and improve. So I just want.
And I think that one of the things that we talked in not too many meetings back, I think might have been at the last budget hearing, we talk about going back to a study that we did years ago, where we were trying to do some
Comparisons, Mayor.
well, not even comparisons, it was equitability, because we look at, and I'm not sure when we lost it, but we would look at, you stating somebody would have come at 9, now they're coming in at 10, and we go back and we have to do those studies, because it's not even a raise, it becomes I guess a grade adjustment, because the worst part is we have people coming in at 10, and some people that have worked with us, like I said, like maybe 20 years, are still at 15 or 12, and it makes no sense. And I think that as we look at the expenses that we take on, and we look at the fact that we need to make sure that the revenue part of our side is really being worked on, we're not going to be able to address these. And so I think that you're right, Chief, and like I said, none of you are any less valuable. My concern here on this particular one is that we lose one that I know that we would not be able to replace, to be able to do what has been done for this community. And if nothing else, and you're not meant to be cost savings, but you have saved so much that we've been able to do other things here. And so I think 3,000 is an investment in what we can be doing. And I think that we need to seriously look at some of the things that of the things that we need to do as a commission to help generate money coming in. And I'll have that discussion in a little bit once you let me go on some other things.
I would still like the tablets over.
You know, I mean, it's just a suggestion for this year, you know, because if we're already balanced, the last thing you would do is take from the fund balance. So I'm saying if that 3,000 we can live without for a year, for this particular year, we're not gonna throw this budget off. It can be taken from that, and I don't have a problem with that.
All right, Mayor, Commissioner, and then also, just to clarify, also on the utilities, we are making that adjustment as well, so we can
Yes.
attract personnel, more
Yes.
personnel. That's already included in our budget, that's right, right? One of the other things also that I want to give a special thanks to Ms. Cordero and Ms. Carmen, that they've been working real hard on the insurance, which is one of the major, you know, challenges that we have for our employees, trying to find the right insurance and trying to find the right fit for our city also, to make sure that, you know, we get better coverage in all the different areas. So I'm going to have Ms. Cordero and Ms. Carmen do a presentation here real quick, and that's something that we already included also in the budget as well. So, and we're looking at two different, this is the Blue Cross Blue Shield and the TML.
Well, the reason why we first have to understand that this is the year that we have to go out for proposals for insurance. So what the commission had asked to look at TML, since they're a governmental risk pool, and we won't have to go out for proposals if we choose to go with them. We did a comparison on our current rate and what TML can offer. Our current rate per employee is $379.55. TML came in the first time in June 8th with a proposal of $429.84 per employee. Well, of course, we couldn't live with that. The last proposal they brought in to us, TML, was July 10th at $377.34. That means that we are going to save $2.21 a month on each employee. Right now, our share, the city's share for Blue Cross Blue Shield is $965,575.20. This is the yearly. With TML, it will be $959,952.96. That's a savings of $5,622.24 a year. It's not a lot, but it's a savings.
Absolutely.
We're not only looking at money, we're also looking at the benefits. The benefits as far as the dental, there's a little difference in the dental. On the employee will be paying $25.71. That's what they're currently paying. If we were to go with the dental for the employee from TML, it's $32.16. So that's $19.31 higher. But on the family end of it, the child and the spouse and the family, the child will right now pay $51.48. The employee, the child would be paying $43.46 with TML. The spouse, $51.42. With TML, it would be $37. And with the family, we pay $80.68. The employee would pay $64.36. On the life and accidental and, no.
Excuse me, and if I may, on the dental, the city pays for the health insurance for the employee only. Of course, the dental, the employee would pay this out of their pocket. So in comparing benefits and premiums, they're pretty much comparable. TML came in with a little bit more incentive in coverages. Okay, so that's just kind of the highlights, and I guess, I'm sorry, go ahead if you want to go with the life.
Now, the life and accidental and dismemberment, we have a $10,000 policy with Blue Cross Blue Shield. With TML, we would have a $25,000, life and AD&D.
And the city pays, excuse me, and the city pays for the premium for the employee for life and AD&D on this. Now, if they wanted additional coverage, then she'll explain it, and that's at the employee's
Well,
cost.
let me just go back on the coverage, on what the city pays. Right now, the city's paying $1,600.58. That's the city share. With TML, it would be $1,653.75, so there's a $53 difference. But again, their benefits are a little bit better with TML because the life and AD&D with Blue Cross is $10,000. $10,000 for life, $10,000 for AD&D. And with TML, it would be $25,000. It's a double indemnity. As far as if we wanted to get additional life on the, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the dependent, help me here because the dependent, it depends on the age of the employee.
There's a scale. There's a scale that you would go. If you want per thousand, you want to cover your son or your daughter or your spouse, it depends on the age. Okay, so that way it's hard to give you an exact amount for that. Okay.
With TML, but it's only a one-time thing if we were to go with them. They would give us, and depending on the age, 3 times the annual salary of the employee. So if an employee's making $100,000, they can get up to $300,000 coverage.
Without underwriting.
Without underwriting.
Meaning you don't have to go through a medical examination to get covered through that. But it's a one-time thing if you choose TML. If you make changes later, then that may differ, but you have to do it initially.
With Blue Cross Blue Shield, the employee has to keep what they have now, and if they want to increase it, then they would have to fill out a medical form and also go through underwriting. The spouse cannot take a life insurance or AD&D more than 50% of the employee's coverage.
And basically, TML has offered that if you have any questions or you have questions for us, you know, you're unclear on something, that's something that we can answer. I know it's a lot of numbers and coverages and things like that, but the comparison basically states, you know, you're going to save a little bit more with TML, and you're going to be able to offer your employees a little bit more benefits.
So would that be your recommendation?
Yes.
So far, that's what it looks like.
That's the only question I have for you guys.
Yes, it does. And of course, you know, some things do fluctuate as far as in premiums, but bottom line, you know, for the employee, for what the city pays for, they're gonna get more benefits. But of course, they'll be available. They did offer that if you had any questions that you may have specifically, they'll be available for you all.
And if you choose not to go with TML, then I would have to go out for proposals.
We cannot renew with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
No,
This is theirs. Although they tried to offer to go on a renewal, but even with their proposed renewal, it wasn't what TML.
Would be higher, the rates would be higher, at least 2% higher than what we currently have.
So your recommendation is?
Initially, with the Blue Cross Blue Shield, it was going to be an increase of 9.4%. So that was going to bring us up to $1,056,624 versus $965.
Carmen, if you could, just one more time on the life and AD&D?
For every,
For what we're paying compared to a TMO?
the difference, Commissioner, is $53.75. That would be the difference in the premium that the city would have to pay.
Can you give me those two numbers, the one we're paying now and the one that we would be?
Right now, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're paying $1,658. With TML, we'll be paying $1,653.75.
Because he's looking at these numbers right here, the monthly contribution.
I did this on, Commissioner, but
Right,
the
because
monthly is contribution for Blue Cross Blue Shield is $1,571.83 for the life and $28.75 for the.
And that's based on the number of employees, because
Right.
the city pays for that portion.
More than double the coverage.
With TML it is.
Right. Okay.
Because we basically selected a plan, they had different options, but it was gonna be something that you wanna look at that the employee's also gonna be able to afford if they choose to select dependent, additional
Yes,
coverage.
gotcha. Very good.
something we would take a vote today, or we have to, or we do it when we approve?
Up to you, Mayor and Commissioners. Let me tell you why, because we're at a crunch right now.
Okay.
We need to renew by, we have to be in place by October 1st.
Oh, it's not on the
No.
agenda for,
No.
So
And,
we would bring,
right, it would have to be brought back. And also, we'd have to plan, if you do choose to go with TML, or with really whoever, we have to go through open enrollment. Everybody has to be on board by, really September 30th. So we have to plan the open enrollments that take about 3 days before we get the employees in and explain to them their coverages and things like that. So it just takes time.
So it goes in effect in October 1st?
would take in effect October 1st,
But
yes.
open enrollment,
Yeah.
it's already
Prior.
open enrollment right now. So we need to let the employees know, look, this is what your options. That way, if they choose not to go through any of this, they have the option to go and look elsewhere under Obamacare.
do you want to put that on the agenda for Tuesday? So that way we can take care of it early enough for you all?
At least to provide direction of what you
sure.
want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, another point I wanted to make, and this is coming off of the discussion that we had here already, and I think that a great need to assist the Parks and Recreation Department with at least one position. And looking at, just talking to Mr. Garza here, looking at some of the adjustments that IT department also is not gonna need a software that we're looking at, I think it's 15,000, something like that, we're not gonna need that. One of the things I really wanna, explore and see if we can assist the Parks and Recreation Department with at least one position, which, that position, I know you requested two, but what is the total one position and the purpose of that position?
Part-time, right?
The part-time, yeah.
Is it the part-time you're saying, or the administrative clerk?
Yeah,
The
it was,
one that I
the
saw was
media-
the administrative
the
clerk.
administrative clerk, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go
The
ahead.
administrative clerk essentially would be an administrative assistant that would handle all of the in-house office procedures. Administrative clerk type office manager would handle our purchase orders, our requisitions, our payroll. It would also help us manage and produce our financial reports. With the new software that we just installed, that goes live next week, we'll have a greater capacity to have better output of actually what we're bringing in and what we're putting out, in the parks. And we have a very high volume of calls, so the people that we have currently there spend a majority of the time just dealing with people who come in and with the phone calls. And we have one full-time person and one part-time person currently there. And of course, we have to sometimes use them out in the field per se because of lack of staff that we have. So this person essentially would, not only for, and when we say parks, it would be for the parks, for the recreation, for the building maintenance as well, which, all three areas are under Parks and Recreation, which is our custodial, our HVAC, then of course our groundskeepers, and then of course all the recreation. So that person would essentially help the three supervisors that I have also with the operations of their offices right now. So somebody specifically with a special set of skills, administrative, with computer skills, with the basic data entry, basic accounting skills. That's what that position would be geared towards.
Wages are we looking at?
Excuse me?
What kind of wages are we looking at for that position?
I believe, from what I saw, it comes out to, I believe, 26,000 a year.
26,902.
Yes.
902?
26902, Ms. Cordova?
.72, yes, sir. Which is 934 right now.
handling the payroll and the purchasing right now.
Right now, actually, my assistant director has been doing it, and we're training one of the other employees to do it, and she's part-time. But I'm trying to align everybody's duties with what their position should be. Yeah.
Now, this clerk is just specifically gonna be there doing the clerk.
Yes, doing that type of clerical work.
You
We
won't
have-
send her out, hey, I
No.
need you to go rake the field or something like that.
No.
You know, no
No.
offense, but you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yes, of course, yes. And that's the thing is, right now, with the staff that I do have, after 5, sometimes we send them out to cover. And it takes obviously away from their duties. And again, this person would be, they wouldn't be so much handling the phone as a receptionist, it would be more office-type work.
Now,
Yeah.
would they be handling the software too that?
Yes, they would be helping handle that software, making sure that, the registrations are done correctly, reconciling our reports, doing all those basic management, office management type duties.
Now, you mentioned the assistant director taking care of payroll and purchasing, right?
Yes.
You said she. Isn't Renee Jaime your?
No, yes, him and a part-time employee that we have, that right now, we're training her to do it, to assist him, yes, to assist in doing it. I'll give you an example, like when we do summer, we have our summer employees, we have a lot of employees. Payroll can take all day long because we have so many employees that we have to do payroll for. Plus all the, what we call contractor employees, like our scorekeepers and all that, all those personnel. Yes.
Mr. Ponce, I had a quick question. Is it possible, just trying to, crunch the numbers here, is it possible we can hire part-time for that position, or is it possible that we can promote the part-timer to a full-timer?
That would be definitely an option, Chief.
Okay.
If we could do that, we could, that individual we have, make that position full-time. We really have to try to play with our hours. We try to bring her in when it's peak time, when we need her the most. So her schedule is never really consistent because we're trying to make sure we utilize when we need her the most. Like right now, it's a very busy time. We have a lot of registration coming in, so we change our schedule. So if we could have them full-time, that would be,
What's the current pay for that part-time employee?
the part, off the top of my head, I can't tell you. I think it's, it's not there.
I think in your budget,
20 hours a week.
itemized.
It's 29 hours a week.
More than 30, yes.
So it'll be an option, Mayor Commissioner, to get the part-time to full-time. And since it's already an employee that's hired already, maybe we can just do that salary adjustment. It's a lot easier for us to do it.
Is this part-time attending school, college?
No,
No?
no.
So they.
They're
can't
available
take
to
a
work.
raise, They take a promotion.
Yes.
They have the qualifications for what you need?
Yes, she has experience working in a medical office doing similar office type work.
Accounting.
Yes.
Chief?
As we're discussing these administrative positions, I think we had a discussion a while back. I wanted to bring up my administrative assistant up to what the rest of the administrative assistants pay scale, because there is a difference in hourly wage compared to the other one. I think the discussion was probably when we went through the budget process at the beginning, and that was going to be one of my proposals. There's no promotions, no anything like that, but I think she's pretty much was left out for a while there. She's not making what the classification calls for. So we could take that into consideration. I know that, I read it here that there was no adjustment, but I think she's been with us for 6 years, and I think she pretty much deserves to be equivalent to the other administrators. That's what you all.
I guess whatever we're doing right now is you have to find it in your budget,
Yes,
right?
that's correct, Mayor. That's exactly, and I
not
think
gonna go
that's, this lively discussion is for that purpose, to make sure that we're gonna go back, myself and the financial staff, is that go back and,
Have the department
exactly.
massage
Exactly,
to
exactly.
accommodate what
Yes,
you're doing.
of course, we're already thinking of looking at some of the areas that we can be able to help them out as well. Chief, real quick, how much was,
4,000.
4,000?
I think if we're looking at your own budget and you can figure out in your own budget to get us to where we need to go is best, because one thing I don't want to do coming out of this is having to
Back in.
dip into the reserves.
No, it's gonna be only limited, and that was just two other items that I wanted to, discuss, Mayor, and I'm glad that you brought that up also, so we can take a look at that. But also, I know that there was a discussion in the meetings as to allocating some funding for streets. I think if you look at page 45, the only thing that we could allocate was the same budget that we had more or less for this year, was $52,000 for road materials. Because obviously, having the repair already, and they were gonna start 2 road today, but the rain didn't. So, yeah, so we got Eldora and Nolana already taken care of, so. And projecting this, the recommended 52,000 or so was because based on the fact that we were thinking that hopefully those streets will be done, and they're already working on that. So I know that there's other projects that, you and me talked about also that, that we wanted to discuss as well. So, but I just wanted to make sure that, that we did allocate some funding for road materials. And I think Mr. Mike Gonzalez has been working real hard as to finding that, and the help with precinct 2 has helped us a lot as well with millions and so forth, and other things that we're doing. So I just wanted to highlight that, right, that area. And the other thing is, and I wanted Mr. Garcia just to clarify exactly what the cost savings means to the city as to cost savings for this budget year, and what we're able to do and not do, Mr. Garcia.
As I was talking, I mean, we were calculating on personnel to have cost savings of 385,000, plus the swimming pool budget, which is 37,000, in total 422,000, right? Those are actually gonna go back to our fund balance, right? And that's gonna help us increase in case you decide, right? To bring back those funds to the fund balance to help increase, right, the percentage that we currently have. Right, but actually, I'm planning to have 25% over the expenses on fund balance, right, at the end of the year.
Also on the pool,
What we have, repeat that again?
This is just for the cost savings,
Right.
right? I'm not including the line items here.
Okay, so you said what? That, so at the end of the year,
At the end of the year, we're gonna end up having more or less a 25% fund balance over our operating expenses.
without putting this in, without putting the 350-something thousand.
Correct.
That is incredible.
Correct. Correct. So I'm not including any savings that we have on line items.
Well, okay, so, is that a fire drill?
Amber alert.
Amber alert.
But that doesn't mean that we have to spend it, right?
one of the things also I wanted to clarify, Mayor, is that, and I know that Mr. Ponce is looking at me on the swimming pool, fund there. We have allocated some professional services because he still needs to do some engineering there, or he needs to do some work there. And also, we still included the light and the water and stuff like that, because we still got to pay for those there. So I think it was more or less about, how much was it, more or less?
For the swimming pool?
Yeah.
116.
No, yeah, but how much did we allocate for you? About 10,000 was for the engineering
Oh.
service, for anything that you need to do, contraction and stuff like that?
I don't recall it right now, Chief, as far as, I know when I spoken to Pablo, we had talked about that some of those costs would come from this year's budget. And right now, actually, I've not been able to find somebody who's willing to do the test for us. So we're looking at the other option of having somebody, just remove the plaster and then having, somebody, which would be significantly cheaper than having somebody come and do both, which is remove the plaster and do the test.
And I think the other item was the fact that we need to allocate funding for our residents to continue going to Alamo on that.
Yes,
So
and
that's
that-
the other part that we
that-
also, we didn't cut that out.
Yeah, that was the part that
wanted
we
to make
talked
sure
about.
we have it there, yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a comment or question or concern. I have a position available, open, that I'm not being able to hire because there is a freeze on the positions, but I'm short-staffed. On Monday, only 3 people were working at the library, 2 employees, because one works on Saturday, so she was off, the other one was sick. I think I have the money with the fines and fees to pay 5 more weeks or 4 more weeks of this employee, because it's in the budget.
The one we approved.
No, yeah, this is, the
From
one
last
you
year.
approved, yeah. One of my employees took the supervisor's position.
Right.
So his position is vacant, and I need to hire someone, because we're short-staffed,
And if
we
you
work
hire-
7 days a week.
And if you hire them, that position's already worked into the next budget anyway, right?
Yes, it is,
So
it is.
why would
Mayor,
that?
I just want to clarify on that. The directive that I've given gave all the directive was to make sure that we did not over budget some of the areas. During the budget process, we want to make sure that we're on the safe side. And that's why we froze the positions that haven't been hired, that have been open for quite some time. And I understand, there are positions that have been open 3 or 4 months that haven't been hired. So the purpose for us to freeze the hiring this month was to make sure that we looked at all the numbers and we know exactly where we're headed to. we don't want to be encountered with something that we over budget or so forth. That's why Mr. Garza's recommendation was that, Chief, let's freeze everything, let's look at everything, and then, once we look at everything, which is looking positive so far, then we can revisit some of those positions that's still open. Because I wanted to hire the utilities director already, but, we want to make sure that, I wanted to give him an opportunity to look at everything that we're looking at the finances to make sure we're in the right track. So not that the need is not there, the need is there. Because obviously in the utilities department, they need a director there, but we wanted to make sure that we did that, and that was the whole purpose. So, it was not that, we didn't want to hire anybody. We just wanted to make sure that give us some, a window, an area, a month or two, to make sure that we also stop all expenditures as well. Everything that's encumbered has been encumbered already, and, training, travel, all that's been encumbered already. But we want to make sure that the month of August and September was just to make sure that we're on the safe side. So that was the whole purpose of that.
And you're already stating that we're going to put in about close to 400,000 into the reserve, into the unrestricted fund, right?
Look at the projected.
We have
it's on
1.8
page-
right now.
The projected year end on page 1, it's $800,000 that we're gonna have positive, right?
Minus the positions.
That includes the salaries that we did?
Okay, so,
the
so
vacant salaries?
outside of the positions, we're putting in about
400.
400,000.
Position that was vacant was June 25th. I hired the person within 2 weeks, so his position is available.
So I think at this point, if we know with very certain, not certainty, but very good guess, that would not be a problem at this point. Would that be correct, since we're,
Mayor, I understand that we are, in that direction. We're 1 month away from the new budget. I think that all staff here has individuals or positions that need to be, filled out. And I think that my recommendation is to, since we're already 1 month away, we can wait for the October 1st budget to come in, and we can, move forward on that. I understand Mrs. Seen's need there, but some of the other positions that haven't been filled, they're in the same position as well. The police department hasn't filled one position yet, and they also were, told to hold back, until we clarify all this.
well, I guess this is a very unique situation, because we're never at this, we haven't been at this situation in about 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit more. Well, since I've been here. Every year, that restricted fund has been depleted. And we're at a very dangerous, it's not dangerous, I'm exaggerating, I would be told not to say that, but we were at a point this last time being at 1.8. And as Mr. Garza stated, we have to have, by recommendation and I guess city policy, at least have in reserve 25% of our 3 months of expenditures or budget of the city put away for an emergency. And so by the fact that they've are saying tonight that we've got 800,000, that's going to be able to put the 400,000 into the budget without us capturing it. So it brings the reserve fund up. Now, why is that very important? Because Mr. Vela said at the last meeting on Monday or Tuesday, whenever we met, that he was going to ask us to take the 400,000 that was going to be left over of the salaries and put it into that reserve fund, not knowing that we have 400,000, which says to me, I wouldn't want 800,000 to go into the reserve with the kind of needs that we have. If we can capture 400 from the salaries to do road work and try to get it done before the end of the year, so it's captured in this year, we can actually tap into that money. And Mr. Vela, I guess, will come back and tell us if he thinks that's a good idea or not, now with the information that we had that we didn't have at the time that he came.
It's a projection, right?
I understand, and everything is, because,
We need to make sure, we get positive numbers next year, because that's going to help us when we're going to request the bond.
But all these are numbers for this year. It's not next year.
Correct.
And that's what
I'm
I'm
sorry,
talking
correct,
about.
yes.
I'm talking about this year.
Correct.
And so I think those are things that we have to take into consideration, and maybe I'd like to put it when Mr. Vela comes in, that'd be part of the discussion, these numbers, because I would hate to see 800,000 go straight into the unrestricted fund.
Just to give you a good example, Mayor, on you talking about that, if the Mayor and Commission choose to go for a road project, I was able to get with Mr. Ronnie Cruz, and we're looking at and this is not that this is going to happen, but this is just a proposed project. The streets of Pollen, Hooper, Coconut, and Salazar, it's in East 495. If we do that, or that Capri subdivision, you're looking at about $293,000 project on that particular road project. No, that's everything, including curb and gutter, everything. Everything. So each street is more or less about 75,000, 77,000. So that just for discussion while we're talking about it, we put back in the fund balance, or we don't put it all, we put half and stuff like that. But that's going to be something that Mr. Chris Vela is going to have to direct the city on that, which is the most the right financial decision to make as to if we go back and do that, because I think that he did discuss that if we use some of the funding for project, that it might hurt, other projects or, our ratings as well. So, but I just wanted to share that with you all. But that's a project right now that if the Mayor Commission chooses to do that, that's more or less what we're looking at. And that's probably one of the areas that needs repair. And not taking the other areas already that we discussed. I submitted a letter that was drafted by Mr. Cervantes, and I appreciate the work that he's done, is that we submitted a letter to Precinct 2 to see if they can help us with South San Antonio, like what was discussed back then, that they wanted to help us out also on, also maybe an overlay on Cesar Chavez, because that project's still a couple years down the road. And also, I think the other, Nebraska, South Nebraska also was in the other. So we submitted that letter to see, hopefully, and, but just to, I wanted to share that with you all, just give you some numbers on that.
And I just want to touch on one point, and, if we were to, and we're talking about this year, I understand, and we were to look at the following year, and this was something that we could do, this is the time that you are able, as a commission, to consider raises. We haven't been able to do them in the past, and we probably can't do them in today's dollar. But if that becomes a trend and we end up with 400,000, we can absorb a raise. So my question to you, in the projections as we have looked at them, and as we look into the future, everything being constant, and I looked at these numbers, and they're extremely conservative. And there was very little left for guessing. So that means that we're looking at using the numbers that actually will turn out to be this year's numbers for next year, right? That being the case, and that being said, if we were able to consider, and can we consider a chart for giving it's not even a raise, it's called an adjustment, a cost of living adjustment. Is that something that we could realistically look in this budget without, taking anything down on the rest, on what we're trying to put into the reserve? Or taking a chance that we would be over?
We can check into the numbers and see.
Look at your numbers, because if it happened this year on those numbers, is it realistic to believe that based on how it was structured, that we would have that possibility? You do have some miscellaneous areas where you have miscellaneous revenues and those kinds of unrealized maybe monies that could be realized this year. I know that you were very conservative when it came to the valuations on the property that we looked at. I think you're taking back your statement that we would be 200,000 behind this year, that you had stated maybe on Monday, based on the numbers that we're looking, correct? Okay. So if we did that, if we looked at this particular numbers that you've used, which are extremely conservative, with absolutely no room for growth, I'd like to know what the possibilities could be in actually considering, in the buffer that you have, a possible adjustment. And very realistic, so that when we look at it, we'll know whether we can or can't. But these numbers are so different than I've ever seen, that I think that there is a great possibility. Now, one other thing I'd like to bring to the attention of the commission is, and I'm gonna talk about the municipal court. You know, we have to figure out, a municipal court is like any other one of our functions. They're not meant to be producing revenue or pay for themselves, but they should at least be meeting the necessary or the projections on the budget. I continue to see that we are, and I'm looking at page 19. And it talks about the projections for expenses. And if we look on page 1, where we have fees and the one attributed to the revenues is fees and fines. And page 1, we had actual of 200,000, and we projected 381,000. I'm sorry, we had 183,000. 200,000. We projected 308. We had 200,000. We're estimating 249 on our numbers, as far as meeting them. And if I look at the last report that you provided, Mr. Garza, you stated, or the numbers show that on the June 30th of 2015, fees and fines were at 59% of actually meeting the goal that we put for budgeting. So I want to know, we've increased that cost in that department by almost double, and we're still incurring the cost, but we are not seeing the increases that kind of investment would be yielding. If there was a relief for us by the amounts being, and I'm not convinced that it's another warrant officer, because we have not been able to really get to the goals that we have set in the past year since the addition of personnel in that department. Total salaries is 225,000, and total cost, total money coming in, according to what you provided, in that month was 182,000. So our revenues, our cost of running it and our revenues lagged too much. Most everybody kept up with their percentages when it came to performance, and I think you show that well. But I think that there is a loss of possibilities in finding some fines in that area and finding some revenue, and I don't know how we're going to rectify that. And I think that that's what I like for the discussion. I'd like to be able to have that discussion with the staff and maybe the judges. What do we need to do to get from a 59 to at least what we used to be, which was like 85 to 90%? Because that puts some relief in our budget against the cost of what and it's quite a bit of money that we can realize, what is it that's happening? And, we didn't increase very much from the time we put 2 more personnel in there and a warrant officer, including a warrant officer and a court coordinator, the chief. And I'm still concerned about that. Do we need 1 judge? I mean, do we, or what? And so I think there's room even in that area that we could be looking at. And that's one that just sticks out because I always follow it, because I know that it's one that I always ask questions in our expenditures versus our realization of our revenues. It's one that seems to lag behind more than many. We also had the licenses and permits that fell behind this year according to our budgeting. And so I think those are the things that we need to look at. And I'd like to discuss that on Tuesday as well. If there's anything that we can do or reconsider to help this budget and find money somewhere. I just think that's one we need to address.
Maybe increasing the fines or court costs?
Well,
Collection, it's all about
Well, yeah, Mayor, and I think that one of the areas that we talked about before also is the fact that we were not collecting on the technology fee. Yeah, and this year we're gonna do that. So that was one fee that we were not collecting. And I know you provided some numbers, Ms. Enriquez, that how much revenue they're gonna be monthly, do you remember? Can you, for next Tuesday, can you bring that, the revenue, once we started adding that technology fee, how much is it gonna, increase? So that, because that doesn't reflect this, because we haven't been collecting it.
Exactly, so it's not a reflection. This amount that Mayor's mentioning, the 59%, is from what should be collected, not from what is not being collected and not even considered
What is
yet.
being estimated, it's
Right.
consistently being, when the projections are being made, we're basing our budget on a projection that's going to yield so much, and the cost continues to stay constant, but that part of the projection that talks about the monies coming in is not panning out. And it just, I think if we are able, and this is a general fund thing, so if we're able to release some of those monies because you are actually, covering some of the costs more, it gives us a little bit more on our side and other sides of the performing revenues, because they're small and far in between where we can look at. And so I just want to see why are we not being as productive in that than we could be, because I think we could release some money if we figure out why are those, and it's your projection, it's the court's projections. They're stating that based on everything staying the same, the personnel I've got, I should bring you in $308,000, but we didn't. And if you look at the previous one, it did the same thing. We seem to continue remaining, and we thought, or the thought was, if more folks were out there trying to do it, the job, would it increase it? And it hasn't really panned out. So that's what I want to find out. What seems to be the issue? And that's not even including the ones that haven't been collected, correct? There's still that past due stuff.
Ms. Rodriguez, the collection agency, is it included here also on the municipal court fines? Is that included there, or that's a separate? Where is it, Leroy, on the collection of, from the Lineberger, from the? When they collect the yes. It's included? What page you looking at? Page 3? Where at, more or less?
Well, it would fall under all these,
Municipal court fines? Okay, it's already there. So how much is, maybe for Tuesday also, how much is municipal court collecting, your staff, and how much is the collection company collecting as well?
On the outstanding,
Yeah,
you're looking at the
exactly,
outstanding.
exactly right.
Because it used to be $1 million, I don't know what it is now. Is it still about $1 million? Okay. That's a lot of money.
I have another, I'm sorry, I have another concern on the new budget. I noticed, and I talked to Hussein, I noticed that most of the departments have 0 on internet and phone, and mine is also. But I can't have 0, I have to have, for phone, 1,170, that's 30% of the yearly. And on the internet, 1,320, that's 10% of the yearly. I just got the letters from E-Rate that they're funding the internet, they're funding 90%. The funding commitment, the amount that I asked was $13,200, which is a year for the internet. And they're funding 90%. That means they're going to pay $11,880. But I have to have the difference in my budget in order for me to pay, because IT is in charge of all of the phones and internet, but the library it's separate. Because USAC only funds the library, not the city. If mine goes to the city, we won't get funded.
Yeah,
And then, I'm sorry.
Let me just explain what happened there. We zeroed out all the telephone costs and all the internet costs on all the departments, and we consolidated them in IT department. So the IT department will handle paying all these monies off. What happened is that probably by mistake, her departments got zeroed out, but we're not responsible of the infrastructure that they have here. It's E-rate. So I think it's a mistake that...
Just put it back in the...
Yes, because I don't pay for the department doesn't pay for their internet or for their phone services. They have their own internet connection, they have their own phone services. It's separate from the whole city. It got, I think, zeroed out.
We make that adjustment. We'll make that adjustment.
And it's included in the E-rate already, so it's just reallocating the cost back into the...
Okay. Thanks for the clarifications. Sure.
Anything else, Chief?
No, Mayor Commissioner, I think that's what we have for our presentation, unless you all have any questions of any kind, or I think the directors also, y'all have any other questions, want comments, suggestions? But it's something that we, everything that was discussed today, we're going to go back and look at the financials to see where we're going to be able to balance out the budget.
I trust that you are, because you seem to already have a real good handle, and looking at the numbers, you kind of combed through it quite well. I want to thank all of you for the time you've taken through this whole process. We're not there yet. I think we're very close to getting it done and approved. But for all the work and everything you look at, and everything you do, and the things that you sacrifice to make sure that this year becomes a different kind of year, I think that's incredible, because we haven't had it in years. And so that comes strictly from the discipline and I know Chief overlooking that budget carefully. So I appreciate all of that work. I'm hoping that there can be something that we can definitely address. I'm glad that we have for you more days. You can actually take 2 weeks off and accumulate 2 weeks a year from now on, which is a great thing, and it makes for a real vacation. And I think that's a great thing that you all were able to present, and that it's being implemented. I think you all should, your families would enjoy that, to have you a little bit longer. And hopefully we can do something if the numbers come together, that we can do something for adjustments for all our employees across the board. And of course, we look at it as everything. We're always very upfront about what we can and can't do, and hopefully we come back with those numbers at the next, as soon as you're able to, so we can factor those out.
If I can just clarify, I think you had mentioned vacation, but I think we're just making the adjustment on the sick leave.
The sick leave? No, I heard two.
Both? We're gonna do-
Just the sick leave.
Okay.
What? But you're accumulating, no? He told me two.
We are in the sick leave and annual leave.
Instead of earning 4 hours of sick leave, you're now gonna be earning
8
8 hours.
Right.
No,
Right.
He
what
said-
I understood
And the
was
annual leave
4 and
also?
4, I mean,
No, no.
8 and 8.
And on the annual leave as
We
well.
already have 8.
On the annual leave, it's already 4, it's already 8.
Well, you can be
8.
sick longer now.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that, because it was
Yeah.
4
You're
and
gonna
4.
get 3 weeks off.
Okay, okay.
No.
It's actually, sick leave is what we had discussed, unless you
Right.
wanna discuss
Okay,
vacation,
okay.
that's something else. Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a sick pool here? No?
That's something,
More,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
right.
Good.
You have the leave donation.
Good.
That's good.
Donation.
And the cap I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, is more for liability purposes. If something were to happen with the city, there has to be a cap.
I see.
So you can be able to say, hey, well, you know what, we have to plan for this if something should happen with the city.
And what's the cap right now?
I believe for sick leave is 96.
96?
And I think for sick leave, and for vacation is different.
How's yours? That's an extra.
Right.
90?
240, and then the payout is 96.
240.
Correct.
Maybe increasing the cap, Mr. Cervantes?
Not for civil service. That's different.
Mayor and Commissioner, I just want to thank you all for your input on this budget. I know that I had a lot of discussion with each and every one of you all for some of the things that we talked about, so I want to thank you on behalf of our directors, and, and I thank you for being hands-on. Thank you for being hands-on, and I think that goes a long ways for all our employees to know that you all are hands-on, and you all really sincerely care for each employee's benefit and well-being in the city. So thank you for having the directors and the employees of San Juan for everything you all do for us. Thank you very much.
Nothing further from the commission? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 8:25.